I'm on. Are you on, Mac?
I am on. My goodness me. I mean, look at that sting that you just did. So for those of you who want to just have a little idea of the insane talent that this young man has, just look at that video production that he put to start off with. Insane, Joel, insane. So good to be chatting to you once again. And today, all about autism and neurodiversity unmasked. So I've got 10 interesting questions for you. So I hope you are prepared for an interesting conversation this evening, my friend.
I'm always prepared, but maybe not for 20 questions. But
Hey,
we're
Shavenka,
not,
thank you for joining us.
We are not here for the game 20 questions. So
what? Oh, are we not? Oh, okay.
No.
Okay, so give me a second while I there we go, trying to multitask over here, but it's all good, man. So yeah, very excited this evening to take this conversation further down the journey, because it's an interesting one, because when it comes to neurodiversity, Joel, you and I have had some interesting, should I say, audio sessions. And when we've brought up the word neurodiversity, on quite a few audios, people have gone, they kind of smile and nod, or they just agree, but very few people seem to be aware about what neurodiversity really is. Or they think that neurodiversity and autism are two separate subjects, but they don't realize that autism falls under the umbrella of autism falls under the umbrella of neurodiversity. So, firstly, before I get started with the questions tonight, for those of you, if you haven't watched any of the previous episodes or seen Joel's profile or seeing Joel's LinkedIn company page, RockstarX, what planet have you been living on? Because Joel has been making a noise on LinkedIn for quite some time. So before I kind of go into that and asking questions, Joel, tell us a little bit about your LinkedIn journey over the last year and how that's been going for you.
Well, Max, my LinkedIn journey over the last year. Before that, you don't want to know about it. Well, you do, because you already do know about it. But my profile was dormant for the past 11, 12 years. I had no idea what I joined. I just thought it was another social media platform. At that particular time in 2009, 10, I was joining every single free platform under the sun, hoping, as most people, or most boys of my age at that particular stage, of meeting ladies. But then I quickly found out that LinkedIn was not like any other platform. So, and then I decided to start using it properly. And by properly, I set up my company page on LinkedIn since name Mac. I've reached over 4,000 followers since name Mac, considering what I was on, which was a few hundred. And I've managed to grow my network again since meeting Mac. But the only thing I haven't managed to do yet since meeting Mac was a profile review, which I keep asking for daily.
I tell you what, nothing like putting you on the spot while you're on live. Hey, I guess we're gonna have to now book that in so that we can just get that out of the way, because there are definitely a few things we need to update on there, my friend. But yeah, I mean, you've been on an interesting journey. I mean, you've been, collaborating and networking and meeting the most incredible people from all over the world. And and you even kind of snuck in a little mention on the Forbes platform, which for me was like, you did what? And you'd only been playing with LinkedIn for a few months, and then all of a sudden, you've now been mentioned by Forbes, and you've been interviewed by all these different people from all over the world. And for a guy who was pretty shy when I first met you, which is not
uncommon
when it comes to neurodiverse individuals, especially autism. You've broken the mold and taken some of those visual or verbal challenges that a lot of people face, and you've kind of broken that mold and just gone, hey, well, you know what? I'm going to go networking. I don't know how to do this thing, but I'm going to figure it out. I'm going to do interviews with people, and I'm going to start talking publicly, which, whether you're neurodiverse or neurotypical, is for most people a bloody scary thing. So even for myself, I used to I used to get butterflies and sweaty palms, and I feel like I was going to throw up before I was doing any lives before. So let's start with a few questions. I guess the first one is, how would you describe your personal experience of being on the autism spectrum?
Incredibly unique, and to wanting a better term, a bit of an alien one, because I don't feel like I belong there. I don't really belong. I'm sort of my own category. I don't belong in normal. I don't fit into fully fledged autistic world. So I'm Joel, and that suits me.
And I love the fact that you said that, because the kind of thought behind the question was, even when we talk, not even neurodiversity, which encompasses autism and ADHD and dyslexia and various other things. If you just take autism on its own, even that is heavily misunderstood, because a lot of people assume that if somebody has autism, therefore there's a kind of default in the way that you communicate with somebody with autism. And when it comes to the spectrum, again, it's such a broad spectrum as it is, and depending on where you fit on that spectrum, I've had personal experience with individuals, including family members, who just because they've got the label of autism, are totally different to you, different human beings. So I love the fact that you put it as, you're just Joel. And this is one of the things that a lot of people are going to, it's a lifelong challenge, because a lot of people assume that autism is something that needs to be fixed. What are your thoughts on that?
If I may, please, if I may sum it up in one word, the cleaner. I want to sum it up in 2 words or 3 words, but the
can you use some clean language here, please?
Yeah, bollocks.
And I love the fact that you just put it how it is. I mean, there's no kind of reading between the lines. There's no blurred nonsense. There's no BS. You just throw it straight out there. And for those of you that if you're on LinkedIn as an example, make sure that your profile is set to public, so that under the settings, when you do throw a comment in there, as we've had a few people throw comments in, but it just comes up as LinkedIn user if you haven't done your settings correctly, so that it is public. So I'm going to share what it looks like when you are public. So I'm going to just show you.
Are you really? Okay.
We've got Shivanka over there. So his face comes up, his LinkedIn label comes up, and his little heart, comes up. So thank you so much for showing us some love. We've got somebody else who comes up as LinkedIn user, and the comment
I'm always
there
wondering
is
about this one.
So this is why. So you're going to get a bit of LinkedIn coaching while we're on here. But it says,
Free
love the
LinkedIn
fact that
coaching.
Joel, that you do wear the that you wear the label. Do not wear the label. Sorry, correction. There we go. And then don't worry, typo error. You know what? I'm dyslexic, so you must see some of the stuff I put out there. And then Joel goes, "What are you trying to say?" So with that, I want to go to the next question, which, some people use the term neurodiversity to describe differences in brain function. How does the concept of neurodiversity resonate with you and your own experiences?
I mentioned this several times. If I have to mention it till I'm blue in the face again, I will do, and I will shout it from Parliament Hill if I have to. All that we are is a different operating system. You absolute morons.
And it's that simple. And this is the thing is, and I find it interesting with neurodiversity. It's not just neurodiversity. Every single one of us as human beings are individuals. Each one of us have our own likes and dislikes. And neurodiversity is, yes, a totally different form of programming, which means we work differently. And I must be honest, today I had the most incredible experience because I took my daughter into a dental hospital. But for the first time, I actually had medical professionals turn around and say, okay, so your daughter is different, because and how do we communicate with her in the best way to assist her with her ADHD and potential autism diagnosis. And but they were, because they acknowledged that she is programmed differently, they treated her with a level of interest to kind of go, okay, so what are you interested in? How do you want to be, taken through this process? And it's not something you see on a regular basis. It's, one of the frustrating things about human beings that I find, shows its ugly face quite often is the fact that our lack of, I guess, patience in a way, and a certain level of ignorance will, because somebody's different to us, will not take the time to get to know that individual and learn their communication style, and therefore miss the opportunity to understand that person's brilliance. And this happens across, whether it's neurodiversity, whether it's religion, whether it's race, whether it's culture, language. I experienced an interesting language thing when I went to France after I just moved to the UK, and I walked into a patisserie and I asked for, I was asking for help, but because I was speaking in English, the lady behind the counter was very abrupt. Because I couldn't bother to take the time to get to know her language, which is fair enough. But she basically just said, no English. And I was like, okay. So I then spoke in Afrikaans because I'm originally from South Africa, and Afrikaans was my first language. And straight away she went, English? Because that was the only other common language she knew. And then all of a sudden she was extremely helpful. But because she knew, and I try to use a few French words to try and explain what I was looking for, and I had a little book there to try and see. Yes, croissants. Oliver, so good to have you in the audience, my friend. And Olivier, it seems to be showing up everywhere I'm going. We're definitely going to have a one-on-one, my friend. So it's the same with neurodiversity. It's just taking that time to make a little effort. Otherwise, how can we expect somebody to take the time and make an effort with us? I mean, what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, treat someone as you would like to be treated yourself.
It's such a simple concept, but the world is we're
Stupid.
a bit up as human beings, and we miss out on so many opportunities because we're sometimes in too much of a rush, too close-minded, and a few other things that I probably won't say on here. But
yes, and if you do want to be, I don't think it was his intention with this book at all. But if you do feel like you want to get some more common sense, I think that's what he going for in this book is go for Steve Sims' book, Go for Stupid. And not be stupid, just go for stupid. And my immediate reaction when I read that title was assume everyone is stupid.
Well, it sounds like a negative way of putting it, but it's actually not.
Yeah.
Because I mean, it's like when a friend of mine gave me the book How to Win Friends and Influence People, I was like, what are you trying to say? But then when I read the book, I was like, man, I wish I'd read this 10 years ago. Because it's like, I guess, putting it into layman terms so that people can really understand the basics and the mechanics. We are getting some interesting comments here. I'm loving it. Marcello, so good to see you, my friend. Great to have you on. Hey, Marcello's even saying hello to all of you. So hey, we're having people having conversations in the chat. That's awesome, man. Please connect. So let's go on to the next question. I mean, how do you feel about the way society typically portrays and understands autism?
I had to wait till your mouth caught up with the rest of your speech. And now he's frozen.
Did you hear the question?
Yes, I did. And then I was busy watching your mouth move.
Not sure why it's going so slow there, but hey, we should be okay.
I think society is run not by leaders, but rather by the media. And media tells us exactly what to think. So you're living your entire life trial by media, essentially. And almost being controlled, and at some point you have to sort of wake up and think for yourself. Make a judgment on autistic people based on actual fact, not what people are telling you.
So when you say facts,
talk to us. We don't bite. Well, unless you want us to.
So, just going back to that kind of earlier or statement and question we spoke about, the fact that there is such a wide spectrum and everybody is so different. It's coming back to exactly what you were saying there, Joel, is, speak to the individual. And
speak to us. We don't bite.
I think
you want us to.
One of the common things I see is, and you hit home with this, for me a couple of years ago when we first started speaking about the fact that, speaking to you directly. So, how often in your life, as an example, if you were, 3 or more people, would somebody refer to somebody that's with you and ask a question rather than ask you directly?
All the time.
And how does that make you feel?
I do have to sort of. I am here, aren't I? I am here, or maybe I'm not. I mean,
and this is the kind of key point that I think a lot of people miss, and even myself, as I was growing up and I was trying to understand, individuals from different places or different cultures and things like that, is always go direct first. At least that's been my experience, and I'm happy for people to comment and put things in the comments and totally contradict me, because I'm always learning. But if you go to the source first, then if they, as an example, if it's somebody with autism but they're nonverbal, then maybe they have a way of communicating, whether that's potentially writing, or whether that's using visual aids, or whatever their communication style is. But if you can't communicate with them directly, what would you suggest is the next best step?
Speak with your actions.
Okay, so give me an example.
Oh, for me, Mac, you know my example, but not tonight. Is very musical, and if I want to be heard, I have to take the biggest instrument and noisiest instrument to be heard. Normally, when I start playing the drums, people then shut up and listen. I do wish it was that easy sometimes when I'm speaking as well.
Absolutely. I mean, and this is the thing that I think on one of our lives in the future, Joel, I love what Olivier says there, with the fact that, if you believe in the media, what the media says, at some point, the media popularity is even lower than politics. Yeah,
I can believe it.
A lot of the time they do go hand in hand. But talking about your music side of things, and I really do think we are going to need to do a session where we get you to break out the drums or even the guitar, because this is, the beauty of RockstarX is where you've learned to communicate through the use of music. And Joel, if you can, whether you do it, I'll probably do it afterwards, and drop it into the comments, but the link to your ever-growing music playlist that you have on Spotify. If you're looking for music that really speaks to Joel's different moods and passions, but also transcends, cultures and different communication. Music is such a powerful thing, and if you go and listen to some of those songs, they are so powerful. And I love the fact that if I look at my brother-in-law as an example, he, if he's having a rough day and you put on some Queen, all of a sudden the man is in a different mood, and he just lights up and lights up the whole room, because music is his kind of love language, as it were, because it's how he shows that he's passionate and excited. I mean, if it's karaoke between the two of us, I think we could probably clear out a room, but the the backing music will definitely keep people going. So when it comes to that understanding, or how people portray or understand autism, music has become such a powerful thing. And what's Olivier saying over here, as the body speaks, if you don't listen to it, it will push and speak louder. I tell you what, body language is something I've learned a lot about, and it's an extremely powerful thing. And in fact, I'm going to ask you this question, Joel. When it comes to body language for yourself, what are the kind of typical things that have turned you off or got you frustrated where as somebody with autism, when you can clearly see somebody either doesn't get you, or they're not making the effort to get to know you or have the patience. What are the kind of signals and signs that you see that straight away in the back of your mind get you, let's say, annoyed, to say the least?
When they're what the heck was that?
No idea.
When they're assuming that I've said something and twisting the words, and then or just plainly ignoring me. I'm talking directly at them or to them, and I'm standing right here.
I think, as an example, I've been to a few networking events with you, and for somebody who, regardless of being neurodiverse or having autism, going to networking events can be quite daunting, and a lot of people will form little cliques and their little circles, and it's like the body language that we talk about there is quite hard to just get in. But one of the things that people forget is that through their physical body language, through their facial expressions, they are sending signals and ultimately blocking opportunities because of judging a book by its cover, as an example. So, and I guess for you would be judging a book by its volume and its track, because, when you first got into networking, it was daunting. So you would, just stand there trying to figure a way to kind of get into the circle, then the conversation. But a lot of people, if they don't know you, would physically ignore you because of the fact that you haven't made that kind of grand gesture entrance, but you communicate differently, so they haven't given you the chance to even be able to get past that. I mean, how does what can you say to people like that automatically do that, so that they can open their mind to a different way of communication?
Just talk to me as if I'm a normal person, and engage in subjects that I would find interesting, like music or something like that, and get me onto a subject where I understand and like, and you will not shut me up. And Olivier has just said that has just summed that up in 4 words for me.
Have I frozen there? It looked like I did for a second. Olivier, don't stop me now. Absolutely. So you were saying about your 4 words?
Yes, Olivier has just summed them up nicely.
Awesome stuff. I think we've got a lot to learn, and a lot of habits that we as human beings have to unlearn when it comes to communication and dealing with individuals that are different. I mean, I'm an avid. If you're a people watcher and you're watching this, please drop that into the comments and let me know if you enjoy watching people and making up in your head what you think is going on. And for me, I love anybody that's different. Anybody that has some form of uniqueness. Because for me, I'm like, hey, what makes that person different? And it's those the little unique things that I just absolutely love. Whereas the human brain, or the human kind of interaction over centuries, a lot of people, unfortunately, through cultural and various other reasons, are easy to judge anything that's different to themselves. And I love using extremes. So, if you look at, cannibals as an example, they were brought up as cannibals. They eat humans. It's one of those things. But the reality is that is their reality. And our reality is different. So just because we are different doesn't make either one of us wrong. It's just we have different set of environment and skills and values that we've grown up with. So we, as human beings, we're far too quick to judge that because something's different, that it's wrong, or it's not right. And 8 billion people are different, so the society tries to make the same from. Yeah, absolutely. And this is the parts, like, trying to put everybody into pigeonholes and trying to make everybody similar to everybody else. Is because you come from this country, you must be like this, or because you went to this school, you must be like this, or because and at the end of the day, we're all individuals, and we've got to embrace that. And as a human or a people watcher, I love going to events, or even just sitting on a park bench and watching how people interact. But I love it. I love seeing when people are uncomfortable, if that makes sense. And you can see that they, through body language, they've made clear decisions on how they're going to respond or react to somebody. And we see this in society. We've done social experiments where you go around and you want to give people money, and then because of people's prior experience, they will assume, oh, this must be a scam, or there's something wrong, or this human is up to something, or so we're very quick to judge individuals. So I guess the next question that I have is, what are the kind of challenges that you encounter in everyday life directly linked to your autism?
I think it's the social side, the most. Yes, your mouth was catching up with all your words there again, Mac. It's actually quite funny when that happens. No, it's the social side, and the fact that if I don't make sense to people, then obviously they don't want to be friends with me. And I really, at this particular point in my life, really couldn't give a shit about, because at the end of the day, I'd be the one laughing, and they would be the one coming to me as soon as I become something, and I will have to say, sorry, where were you for the last 10, 12 years? Do I know you?
Yeah, it's like it's like the typical lottery winner who all of a sudden the friends come out of the woodwork. It's like, oh, okay, you've got something I want. Now all of a sudden it's there's interest. And they say, there's a saying that I love, that I heard, and I don't know where it comes from, but it's it goes along the lines of, a lack of knowledge is a lack of interest.
I like that.
And for me, it's so powerful because of the fact that a lot of people, like neurodiversity, just that word, a lot of people have not come across it because it's not part of their daily life. Yet if you look at neurodiversity as a whole, I can guarantee all of us know at least somebody who is dyslexic or potentially ADHD or ADD or autistic or one of those neurodiverse labels as they were. Yet a lot of the time it's how society treats those individuals. And I look at the schooling system, and a beautiful thing that I saw, because I was trying to, I was fighting our school system and fighting with the education departments and things like that when it came to how they saw ADHD. But when you look at neurodiversity, and the typical school has something like a half a day to 1 day's kind of basic training on how to deal with neurodiverse individuals as a teacher. And for me, that was quite frightening, because if you look at, if you've got 30 kids in a class and one of them is neurodiverse, because they are different, they are seen as the distraction in the class, or the problem in the class, or the person who doesn't pay attention, or the person who has tics, or whatever it may be. And a lot of the time, the example the other 29 kids in the class have of how to deal with that individual is set by that teacher on how they deal with that one individual. So as an example, if they take, I look at my daughter who, she had a teacher who would say to her, she's naughty, she's distracting, she can't play with her fidget spinners. Oh, have we lost you?
No, I'm still here.
Ah, there we go. Sorry, my screens all just flickered and you disappeared, and I was like, oh no. But through that example, I learned that each one of us have a choice in how we respond, how we treat individuals. And unfortunately, things like, even as a parent, when we have children, we have a choice. We can either take 5-10 minutes out to have a proper discussion and get to the bottom of the problem, or we can get frustrated because we've got other things to do and tell them to go away, go to their room, and therefore you keep having this battle of repeat. And if you only took those few minutes out to get to know that individual, understand what the problem is, because they communicate differently, doesn't make them irrelevant. It doesn't make them lesser than. It just means that they may have a challenge communicating with you. And a lot of the time, our own communication style can be the problem, because we're abrasive or short or not giving that person the opportunity. And in the long run, we could solve so many problems by just taking a little bit extra time. Am I boring you here, Joel?
No. My dog runs me straight into from 6 a.m. full on. It's ridiculous.
I tell you what, you've got more activity since you got your puppy than you've probably had for 20 years before that.
Yeah.
My wonderful wife is delivering an incredible cup of coffee in the middle of my live. Thank you so much, man. Tea, even better. Look at that. The other thing is, when it comes to, could you elaborate on the masking side of things? Because this is one of the key kind of points in the headline of this topic. And a lot of people don't understand masking, yet I would go as far as to say that 60, 70, sometimes even 80% of us are masking in some way or form. So can you explain what masking means to you, Joel, and how you've had to apply that in your life?
Hiding your true self, or in my case, hiding autism and my very subtle differences, and I have been doing that all my life throughout school. Had to. Why? Society wants normal. So I give them as normal as they want, or whatever normal to them is. And I've been doing it so long now. I'm only just literally unmasking myself, and I've been doing it so long, so I've now become a kind of a professional in effectively lying to the world and myself about myself.
Can you give me some examples of where you would use masking?
School, college, on the streets, everyday life, outside the house, with strangers, and indeed in some cases with family as well.
Oh, I just want people to let that sink in for a second, because the amount of energy it takes from us as individuals, as human beings, to put on that alternative mask that we are always having to put up so that we can assume that we look like the part that other people want to see, or so that we can fit in. I look at me with my dyslexia as an example, and I was told by many teachers, you're just stupid, you won't amount to anything. So that can massively impact a child's way that their own belief system, and make them feel lesser than. But if you look at masking, masking is something that people do in I'd love, according to this, we've got about 20 odd people watching right now. If you've ever used masking in any shape or form, or whatever comes to mind for you, is please go and drop in the comments what masking means to you, or how you potentially have used masking in your own life. And I'll give you a few examples where people use masking on a regular basis.
So I can give you one.
Go for
it, man. Your
Go for it, Joel.
generation, or even earlier than that.
Are you talking about my age again?
Well, yes, because nowadays you don't get this, because when you were in school, it might have gone out by the time you started school. But if you were left-handed, you were taught to write with the right because left-handers were odd.
That's a brilliant example.
My grandma was ambidextrous because of that problem.
Yeah, so is my dad. My dad. Oh, hold on.
And then she did her elbowing by playing tennis, so she couldn't write anymore with her right hand. So she then had to go left-handed, and then had to learn it all over again.
I mean, just being able to do that and be able to go left-handed and be ambidextrous is, that's a talent in itself. I watch some of the footballers and I watch them kick with the left foot when they're right-footed, and I'm like, that just blows my mind with the accuracy that they have. But that's something that is learned. But again, it's a great example of how, because things were different, or you are different, society forces us to try and fit in the same cookie cutter thing. And if you look at post-World War II education, there was a lot of the whole society around the world, the way humans were coached and trained, were into this cookie cutter environment. If you look at how classrooms still today are set up, in that like manufacturing in a line where everybody has to fit in and everybody has to comply with the system, because they needed more factory workers and people that could literally follow like sheep, as it were. And and yes,
well, they shouldn't. Well, I'm not going to say that. I'll tell you afterwards. I'm not going to say what I was going to
yeah,
say.
careful. But the challenge with that is that conforming has allowed, and I think the last 2-3 years is that because the world has had this disruption because of the pandemic and this whole new digital revolution that's kind of blown up, has given people a bit of a kind of like wake up call to say, hey, why are things like they are? Why can't we do things differently? Why can't we work from home? Why do you have to travel an hour, 2 hours into work, lose that productivity, be away from your family, just so that you can then get into work to do 8 hours and then do the same thing on the way back? And if you think about, even if it's just an hour each way, which, a lot of us, if you're in London, that's pretty easy, just trying to get into London and back.
Yeah,
That's 2 hours a day. That's
well, it's
200
more than
hours
that,
in the first third of the year. Hey, yeah, absolutely. So if you think how many days in your life we waste because we had to conform to a way of thinking that nobody then ends up questioning. And the education and the awareness around neurodiversity now allows us to start questioning things a little bit more, and just learning to have patience for each other. Otherwise, so many of these incredible inventions that are happening in the world and wouldn't happen if those individuals weren't allowed the opportunity to be creative. And if we look at music, I mean, what does that, for you as an individual that is autistic, what does that mean to you when it like, what is the difference that music makes in your life, as an example?
It gives me my identity.
How though?
It allowed me to communicate with people if they didn't understand what I'm saying. Everyone, no matter how stupid you are, understand what music is saying.
There is that universal language of how, I mean, some of the songs on your playlist, I mean, the chorus says it all in so many of them. I urge everybody to please go after this, and Joel, please share the link to that Spotify playlist so that people can go and have a listen, and then just pick a song that really resonates with you and drop in the comments and let us know what music, how that makes you feel, how that makes you communicate differently with people. I've got so many more questions. I just realized, man, we've been flying
carry
through
on.
this, as always. So my next question is, how important is community for you as an autistic individual? Because I know, and let me preface that, because you and I spoke about the isolation you faced growing up.
Yeah.
And many individuals face this as well. What would you say community has changed for you, because you now have a community, in the US, here in the UK, in Europe, all over the place, of people that reach out and follow and communicate and connect with you?
Yes, it's taken me a while to get a community here of real people, and Francis would probably not be very surprised to hear, and you, I know, I've told but when I was trying to find my place and being shut out from every single social, real life social aspect, what do you turn? Most people turn to the bottle. I turned to virtual world. Not the smartest idea.
Well, this is the interesting thing, is that the virtual world has become an incredible space, and there are incredible platforms and communities out there. The challenge is there is so much information, so much data out there that anybody can easily be taken advantage of. I mean, if Google can get hacked and taken advantage of, or any of the major platforms, then
3 times.
Well, this is where, again, education, and this is why I'm so glad that you're involved in some of the background work with working with somebody like Francis West and Security Everywhere, where you're learning about cyber threats and cybersecurity and the things that you can do to protect yourself. But when it comes to community, is how do you build that trusted community that you know that you're in a safe space? And from your experience, you've already mentioned that 3 times you've been taken advantage of online because you are ultimately trying to find a community, somebody that you can connect to, people that you can, that can be real out there. I mean, and how did that impact you? How did that make you feel, Joel?
Well, besides the financial damage, absolutely stupid. So much so that I couldn't even talk to my parents, and you knew that, about it, because I didn't want anyone else to think I'm stupid. It's coming back to this whole masking thing again.
I tell you what, that I think just the masking side of things, and the whole aspect around safe space, I think that's a subject and a topic that we need to talk about is safe spaces, because the world is.
I got so good at masking, I now do it by default.
Oh, I love that. I've got to put that up there. From Alyssa, who's said, I found a great neurodiverse community on the virtual world of LinkedIn. And if you looked at LinkedIn 5-6 years ago, we didn't have many neurodiverse individuals actually being vocal or being content creators or
good. I didn't miss anything then.
Hey,
I didn't miss anything then.
But in the last 2-3 years, I think LinkedIn's become a beautiful space where it's embraced our individuality and our differences. And Alyssa, I 100% agree with you. If I look at how many amazing individuals I've connected with on LinkedIn that are within the neurodiverse space, and whether they're in the educational side, whether they work with charities, or whether they are neurodiverse individuals who are able to really just put themselves out there and be who they are without having to mask and pretend to be somebody else. It has become an incredible space, and it's down to us as individuals to continue fostering that safe space and make sure that if we see anything that conflicts with that, LinkedIn's really good. If you go and hit the report button, if you see something that just shouldn't be accepted, hitting the report button, they don't take it down immediately. The nice thing is, if you hit it, at least they're aware about it, and they can then go and investigate and go, actually, this individual shouldn't be here. They're taking advantage of people, or they are, just openly discriminating, or just being a special individual, should we say? So a few more questions before I run out of time, because I'm conscious that if people see the time clock, they might go, oh, this is too long to listen to. But we want to kind of keep people engaged. And we are, we've got several episodes. And if you go and look at the event details, you'll see all the other topics that we're covering as well.
I do think that we should have a neurodiverse edition of maybe one of us, or Francis even, could set up a completely fake profile somewhere as a catfishing exercise and see how many people fall for it.
Well, I don't think we even have to do that. Unfortunately,
no,
the statistics
so it's controlled,
Yeah, but I think that the scary thing is there's a lot of stats out there already. But I think what I'd like to do is, if you're listening to this and you, like Alyssa mentioned now, if you know of individuals that have stepped out and they are proudly neurodiverse, and they are individuals who just shine, we'd love to connect with them. We'd love to have them on the RockstarX show and have them talk about their experiences so that we can help enable the environment for more individuals. Because for me, I really dislike the word disabled, because it just means that somebody, their environment is different. And I keep telling you, Joel, about the whole goldfish thing. Is we can't call a goldfish disabled because he can't climb a tree, and it's like, come on. It's just we need to enable that environment so that individual can flourish and have the right support and tools available to be able to do the things that they need to do. Let's have a look at one of the other questions that I've got over here. What kind of support, accommodations, and understanding do you wish more people had when it came to interacting with individuals with autism?
I'd love to say common sense, but I don't think people even know what that is. So,
common sense is, I think if you could sell common sense, it would be worth more than gold and all the Bitcoin in the world. I mean, just imagine having that as a commodity. You could make a serious amount of money. Maybe we should figure out if we can start mining some common sense somehow. But I do agree with you there. What is my final question over here? What do you want people to know about autism and neurodiversity that you feel isn't commonly understood and acknowledged?
All right. Like many projects that you guys work on, or anyone works on in the workplace, treat us as individual as you would to any project you may be working on. So you don't approach this. You don't approach different projects or videos the same way. You approach things differently and get different results. Every single person is different, so why should we or why should anyone really not be treated as if everything's the same. Last time I checked, we lived in a fair-ish society, not communist Russia, back in the Soviet Union. Treat us as an individual, not as a collective.
I think that's a really powerful point that you make there, Joel, about treating people as a collective, because that's the problem that we face with all discrimination. We have, I'm South African, and when I first came over to the UK,
and that's what that accent is.
Yes, but so 21 years now. But I was shocked to see and hear different perceptions and different levels of discrimination based on people's assumption of what they know about, as you say, the collective. So one person, their experience about a collective can be totally different to somebody else's. So even like, if we go down to some real basics here, I mean, as a parent trying to teach my children to eat vegetables, as an example, if you find one vegetable is, say your first vegetable you ever eat is Brussels sprouts, and you have a horrific just this is disgusting. If you all of a sudden put vegetables in a collective and go, that's me, I'm done, no more vegetables, because it falls in the category of vegetables. And we see these documentaries about people, as an example, who just eat white flour items or potato-based items, or because they are horrified by vegetables. And this is, that point of the collective that you make is we can't paint everybody with the same brush. I've met people from so many different cultures that, had I met them as the first person of that culture, would have given me a totally different opinion about that culture had I met somebody else. So, and this is the part of education that we just need to have that twist of, it's one does not represent the other. I think just that point, Joel, we need to somehow revisit that.
We definitely do.
You've got my brain going, into a whole another topic here, but
I love when I do that.
but leaving everybody on that thought of treating people as an individual, not as a collective, because your experience based on how the majority of people you've come across has molded your thought process and your opinion on how you treat people is so important to realize that that is based on an opinion, experience, certain individuals who have painted that perception for you, because they are the individuals that represent the collective. And it's, if I look at discrimination, which still shocks me heavily, like if I look at the US and we look at racial profiling, and for me, the same as neurodiversity, or whether it's religion, or whether it's language, or even football, just because an individual acts in a certain way, that does not make the collective. That does not make the majority. And this is where really appreciating our differences and the individuality can make life such a rich and incredible place. And we're missing out on opportunities by prejudging. So, if there are kids watching this, don't eat your vegetables. Try everything at least once. So, with that said, Joel, any final words before we close off and yet another interesting and incredible discussion?
Don't be quick to judge and embrace difference. Embrace difference, because whether we like it or not, we're all different. And if we were all the same, life would be extremely boring.
Absolutely. I can't add to that, anything of greater value at this point. So, Joel, thank you so much for being open and prepared to answer some of these questions, because there is still a lot of education to be done around neurodiversity and autism. I think, if we ever think we know it all, that is where the biggest problem that we face will be. So, to onwards and continuous education, to learning more from each other and making the world a better place. Thank you so much for, just being so transparent.
No worries, Mac. And thank you for doing this after an incredibly difficult, I can't say boring day in hospital. I know what hospitals are. They are boring and slow.
Hey, it's okay. My daughter has lots of pictures of me nodding off against the wall as I was waiting for the time to pass.
I would love her to tell her story about her ADHD and what have you.
I think that will come. I think at this stage it's not something that she wants to, start sharing. but she's going to have one hell of a story, and a beautiful story at that, because she
Yeah.
has taught me so much. So I'm blessed to have a child that is different, and keeps me on my toes. So all good. Joel,
She
with
will keep you out
that,
of bed as well.
true. Have an incredible evening, and as always, we'll continue this conversation.
Yes, we will. Thank you, everybody, and see you
Cheers,
all
everybody.
next time.